Hi there. Today's lesson is going to be over Chapter 12, Sampling and Statistical Theory. This is the first part of a two-part series on Chapter 12, so stay tuned for the second part in the coming days. Let's jump in. So today we are going to have two key takeaways from our lesson. The first key takeaway is that we're going to be able to list reasons for taking a sample rather than a complete census. And the second key takeaway is that we're going to be able to identify key questions and useful criteria for defining a target population. So, understanding the distinction between a sample and a population is extremely important for our work as researchers because we will more often than not be interested in a sample where our insights can be generalized to the much larger population. So a sample is a subset of some larger population using a predefined selection method. And we're going to be talking about the selection method in part 2 of our two-part series on Chapter 12. So this picture here is a great visual representation of how a sample compares to the much larger population from where the sample is drawn. Now, the reason we don't conduct or don't want to include the entire population in our research is because this is very difficult and costly to do. Costly both in terms of time and in money. So whenever you think about like the US Census that's being conducted in 2020, the government spends an enormous amount of money hiring extra resources, printing census forms, and countless hours to obtain a census of the American population. This is no easy task, as our country has a massive geographical spread and we have over 320 million people in the United States that this census is trying to obtain data from. So that's one of the reasons why whenever we're conducting our research, we want to use a sample because a sample is going to be much cheaper and cost a lot less of our time whenever we do this. So sample is generally what we're going to be using for our research purposes. Now, to apply this concept, we're going to be talking about how population can go all the way down to the subset of our sample. So we start off with that population. It can be any large group of individuals or objects that we seek to understand more about. So for example, we could be working with REI. They're an outdoor sporting goods store, and a research question that they might have is, what do consumers look for in a hiking shoe? And they may be asking this question because they want to promote a certain type of hiking shoe. They may be wanting to develop a hiking shoe for their store that's their own brand. So there could be many different reasons why they may have this research question. But if you think about the population here, what do you think that their population may be in this case? So the population in this case could be any consumer that's interested in outdoor activities, because hiking shoes can be used for many different types of outdoor activities. So the population could be very large in this case, but we want to really determine more of a target population, and that target population is going to be a more defined subset of our more general population based off of our sampling method and then based off of some type of predefined criteria. So in this case, we may be more so interested in those who are serious hikers, that's their main interest, and that's what the shoe may be developed for, or that's who we're going to be targeting with our marketing campaign. So our target population, it's important that this is a smaller subset of the more general population. Now from the target population, that's where our sample is going to be drawn. And our sample is going to be a subset of that target population where we're going to obtain a number of respondents from that much larger pool of the target population that's available to us. So our sample, it could be anywhere from 100 people or it could range up to 1,000 people. We will talk about how to calculate that actual sample that we're wanting to obtain in part 2. But think of the sample as a much smaller subset of the target population. And then finally, the research participant is one individual in our overall sample. So we could have 100, like I mentioned, research participants in that sample, and each research participant has different characteristics, but hopefully we've matched them to that they're a serious hiker and that that's one of their main interests. So to go forward and talk about defining our target population, you might ask, why would it cost anything to launch a survey when anyone could do this online for free? And it's true, you may be able to put your survey out on social media and reach thousands of respondents in a short amount of time because, like REI, you may have a large following on your social media page, but whenever you place that survey on your social media platform, would you be obtaining the right respondents for what you're actually looking to achieve based off your research objectives? So that's the reason why our defining the target population is really important. And one of the questions we might ask, are the respondents appropriate based on the research objective? And that goes back to, we don't want to just post our survey online and take anybody who will actually respond to it. We want to be somewhat systematic in the sense that we have a goal in mind and we're going to select people that fit into our specific target population. So another question, is a list available that matches our target population? So we'll talk about in the next part of this chapter about lists that may be available, but sometimes you may already have generated lists based off of your CRM software, based off of predefined customer data that you've been able to collect. But is there a list available that you can actually use to target and sample from? And then a next question would be, who are we not interested in? So this is actually going to weed out a lot of people from your sample that you're not going to be interested in, and those who aren't really going to apply to what you need. And the last question is, should the study include multiple target populations? So multiple target populations, as I had mentioned, for the REI case, it could include any type of outdoor activity. So you may want to focus on serious hikers, but you may also want to focus on serious canyoneering folks, or you may want to focus on serious rafting people, because they're going to have to do some type of hiking to get to the raft or to the canyon, wherever they're going to be doing their activities at. So you may want to actually focus on different types of population and figure out different marketing techniques to actually target those. And from that aspect, that's where our sample would be drawn from, so we can get insights. So all of this to say that our population must be defined accurately for our research to produce good results. And answers to these questions will help researchers and decision makers focus on the right populations of potential respondents. So the last thing that I want to cover is how we may use Google Trends to help define a target population. So Google Trends is a really nice way for you to be able to actually find some insights if you're kind of struggling with where you are wanting to target. Maybe you're looking to do a marketing campaign and you're struggling on where you want to target the individuals. For our purposes, for marketing research, this may be where you're wanting to hit those who are the most serious about hiking, and this may be in a specific geographic region. So here you can see that Vermont expresses the most interest in hiking, followed by Colorado, New Hampshire, Hawaii, and Montana. These are the top 5. Now, the reason why we might want to sample in these geographic regions is because these are the people who are most interested in hiking. And if we were to obtain a sample from these areas, we're probably going to have a good generalizable sample to our overall population of those who are serious about hiking. So Google Trends can really help with that. I encourage you to look on Google Trends. If you're using this for your project, it may help you identify some things maybe you weren't thinking about before, but Google Trends is really good whether it's for marketing research purposes, marketing campaign purposes. I highly recommend you looking at Google Trends. So that's really it for today's lesson. Next time we're going to be covering the types of probability and non-probability sampling methods, and then I'm going to show you how to actually calculate an appropriate sample size for a research study. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.